evening. Welcome to Laughing Monkey Music Show. Taylor and Glen Matlock, how are you, man?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing
It's
good.
nice to have us back on again. We had a laugh about a year ago or something, didn't we?
We did. We've had a
Was
couple
it the
laughs.
year?
We did the you went over some records with me, and we did an initial show before that. It's like your third time, but I'm excited. We're here to talk about your album,
Oh, okay.
and I was lucky enough to hear the whole thing, and it is
Wow.
fantastic.
Oh, you like
Uh,
it? Good. I'm quite pleased with it.
yeah,
It's a bit of
yeah.
a departure and a kind of same old thing kind of way, but yeah, I'll just try and write in my mind. There's a kind of a classic songwriting rock thing, and I kind of stick to that, but with different knobs on it, you know.
Well, it's a very rock and roll album. I mean, and that's what it is. Just it's just good rock and roll. I mean, you have a good pop sensibility. You have from the very beginning of the Pistols, the Rich Kids. You've always had it. Your other soul albums. You know, that's just what you do.
That's
And
what I
you know,
do. Yeah.
it's you know, I know one of the funny things you said when we were talking before about songwriting is you don't like to record your stuff, but you'll write it, and if it sticks in your head for a while, it's good. If not,
Yeah.
you're not going to remember it. Was
Well,
that
that, but
part of
that's it.
this?
You know, is if you can't remember it yourself, how can you expect anybody else to? You know.
Well, right. I mean, in the noodling process, maybe you might want to be recording it a little bit, but you got a better memory than I can. I don't remember anything, so
Right.
good music or not.
I remember what's worth remembering, and the things I can't remember. There's a useful phrase which is selective amnesia, and I abide by that.
That is it is. What is the time frame? So you have 13 songs in this album. How long did it take you to get these all recorded?
Well, it's sort of been a little while coming out because of lockdown and stuff. I'd recorded the bulk of it before that.
Mhm.
But I remember talking to Ian Hunter a long time ago. I did a bit of work with him and what he liked to do. He's got a good idea for a song and how it goes, kind of thing, but you haven't necessarily filled in all the blanks of the lyrics. So you kind of record it and you go la la la, and you got your hook phrase here and there. And then you just sit on it for a bit, you know, and you play it over and over and you keep adapting the words and things. So I kind of did that, but then lockdown happened. I'd recorded some of the songs, but not all of them. I sat on them for a bit, and then in lockdown, I wrote a couple of more, which is the first song and the last song on the album, which kind of
uh,
qualified what the point I was trying to get across with the whole record. I think it encapsulates it, those two songs. And I revisited the vocals, changed a bit here and there, and re-sang the whole thing again. Got my mate James Halliwell, who also plays with the Water Boys, and to play keyboards on it. He's got a little studio. We've recorded the vocals with him, and it came out. It came out, and I sent it over to my mate Mario J McNulty in New York, who mixed it, who did my last album as well. So yeah, I kind of got a little team of people I work with, and hopefully each time I do an album, it gets that little bit better. I think the songwriting's, I would say this, but generally quite strong. I always write an all right song, and every now and then I write a pretty good one, I think, you know.
I
So,
agree. I think this is a very solid thing. I've been excited because I had your single when it came out. Your little was the last year I think I got it. So I've been excited with those just two songs. This album I've been waiting, so I was pleasantly
oh, yeah, the little
happy.
limited edition vinyl we
Yeah,
did. Yeah, it was just me and Al playing, you know, because we did a few. He got stuck with me. Cell Slick, he got stuck with me in lockdown.
it's a
And
great
we
little
did a
single though.
FaceTime live things. And then we thought, oh, actually, we probably got a single out of this. So it was just something to do. But now you got a full band version of those songs, you know, I think they've come on quite a lot. Yeah.
You start off with, and you're saying you start and you end with. So people don't know, they don't have it yet, but when they do, "Head on a Stick" is the first song of the album, and you end with "This Ship." Those are the two songs you're talking about. "Head on a Stick" is actually your first single, also.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that a little bit,
Guess
like the
so.
musicians and stuff? I guess. Well, well, those are songs I'm
What do
talking
you
about.
want to
Like,
know about that? Well, that one, because it was recorded in lockdown and I didn't really have an access to a studio. And also in lockdown, I'd done a few things like charity things, you know, support the nurses over here and a couple of other sessions that people approached me about. And I did a load of stuff online, you know, with people never meeting up with each other. I even did a record with a band. well, a mate of mine, Henry Padovani, he was the original guitarist in the Police. He's Corsican, lives in Corsica. He wrote to me and he said, Glenn, this band have approached me to do some guitar on it, but it needs some bass. Would you do it? And Henry was in Corsica. This was all online. I said, yeah, send me the tape. And I really liked it. I can't even forget the name of the band, but it was like a real modern rock thing. And I came up with like a sort of not Jackie, Holger Cusack kind of bass line, guy from Cannes, and sent it back to them. But I didn't realise, but they were actually in Argentina and they dug it and they spoke to their manager who reached out to me and then paid me from Switzerland. And like nobody ever met, but it was a way of working, and lots of musicians were doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
So anyway, when I wrote these couple of new songs, I thought, ooh, and I was talking to Clem Burke, and he had access to a studio, sort of when your lockdown was a bit less lighter in Los
yeah.
Angeles. So I sent him a guitar track over, and he put the drums to it, and then he sent them back. And when lockdown lifted here, I went in and did all the guitars, and James played keyboards on it. So I'm quite pleased. That's all my guitar work on those two songs. So I think it's my first ever showing off guitar solo in public.
Well, there you go. Well, that is a
It,
good
it,
minute
took a
for
few,
that song.
it took a few goes. But to me, lyrically, I put it out as the first one because, I mean, all round the Western world, there's this horrible right lurch to the right, and I think there's a load of wrong uns we say have been leading us down the wrong path, and
Yeah, a couple.
I think they should be held to account, and I think they should receive their comeuppance. So, metaphorically, I'd like to see all their heads on a stick. To me, it kind of particularly applies to what's going on with Brexit over here, but it was written when Boris Johnson, who's a complete
Right.
toe rag, I think, he still had Trump at the time when I was initially writing the lyric, and it's kind of aimed at people like that,
It could
really.
be reflected over here too in the U.S.
Yeah,
I'm sure people can relate to
I'm,
that too.
I'm heavily unenamored with people like that, and if I had to sum up the song in a four-word phrase, I would say it's a spleen venting toe tapper. Right. The
Well, it's
thing is,
fun.
if you put that in initials, it sounds like sexually transmitted disease. So maybe we shouldn't go there.
Yeah, we'll bring
Not
that
that
down.
I
Put
know.
that in the title. But I mean, it's what's great is there's a lot of variety on this album because I mean you do have a lot of piss and vinegar when you write stuff like consequences coming. I mean, you have things where you kind of put it out there, but then you have a fun song. And I was telling you before, like some of my favorite songs, "Magic Carpet Ride."
Well,
Those
okay,
that melody
it
is
might be a
fantastic.
magic cup. It might be a fun song, but on the other hand, again, it sort of fits in with what's going on with here. It's like our politicians have dragged us off on this magic carpet ride. It could have been a black magic carpet ride looking back. So
Right.
who knows where, who knows when? That's the thinking behind the song, and that whole thing, no place to run, no place like, what can you do about it apart from moan about it? I've tried to kind of stir it up a bit. Hell, I've even got a doo-wop song on the album. I don't know if you noticed that one. There's that one called Tried to Tell You.
Yep.
Yeah, because I
That was.
was stuck at
I
home.
love that.
Thought I'll ever go to BVs, and I'm a big fan of the Flamingos doing "I Only Have Eyes for You." Bap
Mhm.
shoo up, doo 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 doo. Bap shoo up. So I thought stick them in there, and I sent them to Mario, and I said I'm not sure about these, and he said no, love it. So there you go, all the way through.
Well, that was literally my next question because in our last show we did we talked about records and stuff that you loved and music we talked about. So a lot of this of your influences kind of come up. I can kind of feel, you know, some of the songs and the styles that you like. And that song, Try to Tell You just really felt like it was right out of our conversation. And I love songs like that too. So that is, another song I really love. Top of
Good.
the album,
What's
you
wrong
know.
with the other ones?
There's nothing wrong with them. I can have favorites. Every other
Fine.
week. You ask me next week, I will have different favorites too. Although
Good.
I'm a sucker for a ballady doo-wop song though. But you also do Constant Craving on there. That was also on your single. You put that on there. It's a newer version, a little different than what we're used to. Kind of fun,
What?
more upbeat. Constant Craving.
Yeah. Was that on the single? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Oh, you
Pretty sure it
sure?
was. Yeah,
Oh,
I've heard you do it before, so it's got to be from that. Yeah,
I better go and have a look then. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh,
It's a
I
good
thought,
song though. It's a good cover. It's because I wouldn't expect that from you, and it's a really good rendition of
well,
something.
on my last album, Good to Go, I actually did a cover of a Scott Walker song called Montague Terrace and Blue. I like
Mhm.
a ballad. Big fan of Anthony Newley. I was watching him on the Bacharach show, sort of doing a 20-minute duet with Sammy Davis Jr. And it's all these big, they're not really show tunes, but they are from shows, but really good ballads with great lyrics. And so I kind of got that side to me. I'm not much of a crooner, but I'm going to do it
But
anyway. So, and that's it, and it comes out how it comes out. But I've always loved that Constant Craven song. It's a song about yearning that you think there's a better way of going about
Mhm.
things. And, sometimes you shouldn't shout from a challenge because if you kind of win in somewhere whatsoever, it puts hairs on your chest. So
it's also you also do it a little bit differently than the original too. It's kind
there's
of
no
fun actually
point
being a
doing it
piece.
the same. There's no
No,
point doing it the same. In fact, when we was doing it, I said to Chris Musto, who plays drums on that one, I said, well, hang on, just lay into it a bit differently. He said, well, like that. I said, no. Imagine the Stones doing Harlem Shuffle, doing Constant Craven, and that's kind of what we went, dun, 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 dun. And then El played it, and he's almost got some Ashes to Ashes kind of guitar picking on it and stuff, and also playing bass on that track is Norman Watrous from the Blockheads, and I was quite pleased to get him on the album. And also, he used to play with Geno Washington and the Ram Jam band, so it's all kind of come together in that, yeah.
the Ram Jam band, the same one does Black Betty, that Ram Jam band, or is this a
No,
different
no,
band?
no. Do you
Different band.
know? Do you know? Oh, Gino by Dexys Midnight Runners.
Yeah.
Uh, well, that's about Geno Washington. And it
Okay.
was an American guy, but he was this black soul singer who was over here in the 60s, very early 70s. And, Northern Soul, we call it. Yeah, so he played with them. Yeah, high
It's
octane review.
Facing a Crowd is another one. I mean, you've got these. Every song has such a different flavor to it. It's really great. It's like a mixed bag on some
Um,
level. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's a theme to a lot of the album. We've spoken about Constant Craven, Magic Carpet Ride, and Consequences Come In, and this shit is kind of because we got such a right wing government, and they're trying to say, oh, well, if you don't vote for us and believe in us, you're not a patriot. Well, that's nonsense. But the song's about questioning your patriotism if you've been led down the wrong path by people who are wrong in your mind. So there's that. But you can't have every song like that. And Facing the Crowd is a sort of an unrequited love song kind of thing, really. And it's set in the West Village in New York. I co-wrote it with a friend of mine called Patty Paladin. He used to work with Johnny Thunders, American lady who lives in England. And whenever
mhm.
I'm kind of got half an idea for a lyric but get a bit stuck, like phone her up and we knocked some things around together, and that was one of them. So that's a slightly older song that's never seen the light of day. I did actually want Blondie to do it. I thought it would be right up their street, but they thought it was a bit too much like Blondie. Hey, what can you do? Yeah.
That's really interesting. I'll talk about that in a second. Another song I want to actually ask you about is This Empty Heart, which is you know another. I mean, they're all really good. It's just like where was that one coming from? Because it feels like even the song selection, the way the album's put together, they all fit cohesively, but they all you don't feel like you're leading into one song to the other. It's really broken up in a way
Well,
where
I
the
mean,
pace is good.
much as I like them, I don't want to be like the Ramones, when every song's almost like a carbon copy of that.
But it's done.
Or people ask me what I think about Oasis, and I say they're like status quo. And people say, no, nothing like them. I say, oh, yeah, but if you go in a bar and somebody puts one of their songs on the jukebox, it's really good
Yeah,
for that one song. But if you had an whole album of it, whatever you want, hey, Caroline, it's all the same. You got to jiggle it around a little bit, I think. if you was an artist, you
Right.
don't only use blue and red. You use a bit of yellow and
Mhm.
maybe a bit of purple in there somehow. Maybe. I don't know. I've talked some rubbish.
You got some fantastic guitar work on here too. Um, Obviously you did some of it yourself. Who else was on the album though?
Well,
Besides,
El Slick plays a lot of the lead guitar in it. I play
okay.
rhythm guitar. I did play bass on a track or two. Neil X, who was in Ziegler Sputnik, and he's actually in my live
Oh,
band in
wow.
England at the moment. He also plays with Mark Armand. And on a track, there's a track called Something About the Weekend. I got a guest artist, and his name's Hot Eye, and he's like the Jeff Beck of Japan.
Really?
That song's a co-write, and he's the guy who wrote the Kill Bill theme tune. But I didn't know that at the time, and I met him. He came to see us play. I think he wanted to meet El Slick, and I
Hmm.
met him, and he invited us to a show he was doing a few weeks later, and I went with Neil X, and he came out on stage and he played this song, and I said to my mate Neil, I said, he's a Queen's Park Rangers fan. That's my football team. And he said, what do you mean? I said, but this is the music that the team walked out to on the pitch. And he said, no, you nit. He said, it's the theme from Kill Bill, and he wrote it. I went, oh, right. You don't know till you know. But he's a great guy, fantastic guitarist, and I'm really honoured to have him on the album. So, um, yeah, he's kind of, and you know what? He's very, for a Japanese guy, he's very tall. He's about 6'2".
Wow.
So, but check him out, Hot Eye.
I
It's good.
will.
It's
I
great.
will have
I
to
mean,
check them out. I mean,
in Japan, he'll do like 3 or 4 consecutive nights at the Budokan. So there you go. Perhaps that'll help with my Japanese sales. You never know.
well, with you, and I've always learned after our talks, I always go back and deep dive and listen to other
Oh,
artists from you. You've turned me on to a lot of artists over the years too. Um, so
have,
which is
have
fantastic.
we mentioned Stackridge yet?
We have not. Please expound.
Check out Stackridge.
Yeah.
They were pre-Madness before Madness, and I saw them at the Reading Festival once, and they got a fantastic song about an elephant, Dora the Female Explorer. It's kind of silly, kind of kid stuff, but I like it. And they're from the West Country in England, sort of Somerset way, and they got a song. I think I used to either smoke too much or drink too much really strong cider. And there's a town in the West Country called Yatton,
Hmm.
Yaton, and they got a song called Purple Spaceships over Yatton, right? And then I was down my local pub years ago, and there's this woman, Carol, who's got a very high voice when she's had a drink. And she said, oh, what's your favourite bands, Glenn? And just for a laugh, I said Stackridge, and she went, "Oh, I used to go out with the lead singer." So it's all kind of connected. But check them out. Anyway, I've jumped in. Tell me what.
No, I love that. I love the little side turns with you because there's
Hmm.
always a story or an adventure with you. You've done, but the thing is, you play with a lot of bands, and you've actually played with a lot of younger bands too. You know, you do have your finger on the pulse of all different types of music and different artists. You're not just stuck in like one type of genre. Which is I think reflective.
Maybe that's my problem. I personally feel though there's only two kinds of music. There's good and bad. Now, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but it doesn't really matter what idiom it's in. Um, I kind of appreciate the sort of artisanship of people playing, or the
Right.
not real virtuosity like Stanley Clark or something like that. But I think musicians, when they get to a certain level, they transcend what their plan is, and they tend to play like their personality a little bit. I mean, El Slick when he plays, he's a real crabby git, right? He's like Walter Matthau, and he plays like that. It's real spiky, and he does a rhythm part. It's like, and it's like because his milk wasn't delivered that morning, he's taken it out on the guitar. But it's kind of true, though.
I have to go back and watch now. You guys, yeah, that makes you guys the odd couple of rock and roll.
Maybe, yeah, yeah. But
You
you
guys are
know
great
what?
together, though.
I'm proud to be Jack Lemmon. You know,
You guys are great together, though. You guys are funny together
but well,
in
maybe
interviews and
we'll do
stuff.
some more together. You know, if I can get if the record takes off and we get offered some proper gigs, you know, I'd like Al to be on board in the States at least. You know.
Well, that's the other question. I mean, because you are also doing stuff right now with Blondie, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations on that, by the way. It's a well-deserved gig for you. And
Thank you.
I'm so happy to hear that because can't be enough of you out there. What is so? Did you record with them too? Is that what I heard? There's some recording going
Oh,
on.
but I put the bass down on a new album in the fall in New York.
Cool.
I haven't heard the finished thing yet. I just did a rhythm tracks with them. It sounded interesting. Wait and see. I don't know what's happening yet. I've pitched a couple of song ideas and we recorded a couple. Whether they'll end up on the album or not, I don't
Cool.
know. I mean, my original plan was to get the album out tail end of last year and do all this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Just doesn't always work out that way. And now it's out now. And now I'm going to get halfway through March. We got shows in Mexico and Lima and Bogota, and then we're playing in California. So I'm kind of slotting the album in, my album in
Cool.
between that. But
Well,
then we'll be back in England through June. And I think the last gig with Blondie is at the Glastonbury Fest. No, we're doing this thing with Iggy, and it's quite funny actually. In this band called Generation Sex, which is Billy Idol, Tony James, Steve Jones, and Paul Cook. And do you know what? They're supporting us. I saw Paul earlier on actually. I had a coffee with him down the Portobello Road. It's
I'm,
funny. But after that, hopefully I can set some shows up for my band because to
I'd love
me,
to see you play at some point. I said
pardon,
I'd love to see you play at some point
I'm
too.
not stopping you.
Hopefully.
I'm not
Well, hopefully
stopping
it's a little
you.
closer than me hopping over the seas.
Yeah,
Hopefully
but
you'll play something.
people always say this. But how do you think we feel? We have to go halfway around the world to earn enough money to pay the gas bill.
I know. I'm not. Hey, one thing I support in the show is telling people to go to the shows. I'm just saying if you're somewhat close enough, I don't have to go across the ocean.
Well,
If you get a New
we
York
did.
show or a little
You
further
know,
down,
we played in Huntingdon. Where was you? That's not far from you.
would you play?
Huntingdon in Long Island in August or September. We did that. We played Pier 17. That's straight down on the train down the Hudson Valley. You could have been there. That's with
Really?
Blondie, but
That's
you know,
right.
I'm not going to break your balls too much, but I
You
will a
could
little
you could absolutely recommend. You've done it every time we've spoken. I would expect less from you at this point.
bit. Well, there you go.
It doesn't. I would be disappointed if you didn't. I'm talking solo. I wouldn't be, if you get your place in Greenwich and you play New York. I'd love to see you do. I'd love to go down to New York and see you do a show down there,
Do you know
a
where I'd
Glen
really
show.
like to play? I'd like to play at the bitter end. I know it's not the biggest thing, but when I was over there, um, Clem said to me, "Oh, come, let's go and see this guy." And I said, "What guy?" And he said, "Oh, we'll get there." And the show was at like 6:30 or something like that. And I thought, what kind of time is this for a show? And I went down there, and what's the guy's name? It's not Hal Blaine. It was this guy who used to play with the Cutting Crew,
Mhm.
and he was a keyboard player, and he did a set with his. He's 70 something. He did all the songs that he played on with his half his family was singing with a drummer and a bass player and a guitarist. Weren't many people there. There was maybe 60 people there, but in the front
Yeah.
row was Paul Schaefer from the
Oh,
Letterman show. I've met
yeah.
before, the Pistols. But he did all these songs that he played on. You know, these boots are made from walking and Help Me Rhonda, and because he was in the country, it was great. It was really different. I loved it. We met him afterwards. It was cool. And I'd actually met him before. I didn't realise, but he'd been Nancy Sinatra's MC, and I'd met him in London. I went to see her. Yeah, so
And that
about
was
ten.
that was the club he played at that you liked also.
I'd like to play there. Yeah, this kind of that whole Greenwich Village thing. Get
That's what I'm
myself a
just saying.
Bob Dylan cap and hang on.
You got one?
Yeah, of course. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. I can do that. Bit of
You
rain.
could you could do that. That's pretty funny.
It's
But
easy
yes,
then.
I would love to see you within a couple hours of me. See you do you.
All
You know,
right.
I love Blondie, but I would love to see you do
Well,
you.
I'm working on it. So, thanks for helping us bigging up the record. If it takes off a
Yeah,
bit, it's like what we do depends on
yeah,
guys like you, which I very appreciate, to kind of get the word out, and then you can come and play.
yeah. I
There's,
understand.
sadly, there's economics involved. Um,
I talk about that all the time. If people can't, if people don't show up and they can't do it, it's necessary. It's not that you don't want to do it. It is the economics. So I know you got more to go on. So we're gonna wrap it up. I just want to tell people check out this new album, Head on a Stick. The single's already out. The whole album is fantastic. I don't listen to crappy music, so I'm going to tell you right now. I wouldn't. I actually reached out to him and said I got to do this with you because this is what I've heard is good, and then I got the rest of the album sent to me, and I'm like, I'm in. Um, and go back check out some of Glenn's other stuff too, because like Rich Kids and other stuff he's done, he's written on a lot of the stuff. He's played with other bands and other things. So check out his other stuff. He's not just this one what we know from the Pistols. Glenn's had a lot of stuff, and I'm going to add to put a pin in it. Go back and check the show he did with me with the record show. Go on YouTube and listen to the records when he's talking about his influences, because there's so many other artists that you talk about that are really great, and I've been turned on. And I listen to a lot of music, so the fact that I'm constantly getting turned on to music by you is great. But I want you to wrap this up. Your last,
okay, yeah. Well, I'll just say, thanks for that. I mean, not only is this album coming out, Cooking Vinyl are putting that out. Are going to put out my reissue my last two albums, Good to Go, and the one before that, Born Running, and maybe even the ones before that, and they will all be available if you're in America. You can pre-order the album now on Townsend Music. I think that's the link, and you can, it's going to be on Amazon and all
right?
Spotify and all that kind of stuff. But check it out. I'm proud of it. It's something to
Now, go on
do.
question. Hey
Yeah.
Mister, where does Hey Mister on? I love that song.
Well, that one's not on nothing apart from it's on YouTube or somewhere.
I love
That's
that.
one that I kind of just threw out there a while back.
Uh,
Um,
wouldn't
yeah,
suck if you put it out
maybe it should,
somewhere.
maybe it should be on something.
I think it
But
should.
you
I love
heard
that
it.
song.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
me kind of trying to do a bit of a what is it? It's kind of like all the young dudes meets the Grease Band doing a little help with my friends. I love the Grease Band. Joe
yeah,
Cocker.
yeah. I didn't even think about that. I heard that. I was like, God, that's a good song. It's just you just write good songs. I think that's what it is. It's just good music. So, Glenn, I want to thank you for being on again. As
All right,
always, a
folks.
pleasure with you, man. Well, thank you very
Well,
much.
I'll see you soon, and maybe see you at the bitter end.